Good evening, Gearheads. Welcome to your Sunday night with Speed City. This is John Massengale in the studio with Jonathan Green in Austin, Texas. Mr. Varsha's not joining us tonight. We have a fun show, lots to talk about, and probably the bulk of it, the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
It's been a while since I've done a Sunday night show.
Where you been, buddy?
I've been on the road again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we're going to talk a little Formula One. We're going to talk a little MotoGP, a little bit of everything tonight.
Yeah.
But I do want to start with the 24 Hours of Le Mans because I probably had it, as usual, had it on in the background for probably 6, 7, 8 hours, maybe. And I was working on the car a little bit with my son, hanging out, but I got to watch a good bit of it.
I actually borrowed your anorak for part of it because I went to YouTube, as you've often recommended me to do, and I sat on board for the start of the 24 hours race with the pole Ferrari. And watch the whole. They've got like 3 cameras on the car, and it was kind of cool watching him get revved up and
That's cool.
seeing what happened in the first few laps, just from on board only. And I really enjoyed it.
Kind of like F1 TV Pro.
Correct.
Well, that is the story, isn't it? Ferrari coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty excited. I'm not some huge Ferrari fan, but I was pretty excited about that.
Oh, come on. I mean, what is it, since 1965?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
When they came out with this car, and I always kind of go, really, another sports car, another hypercar. I kind of, with Toyota's dominance of the last, 10 years or so, I've kind of fallen asleep a little bit on that. And when I looked at the prospect of Toyota's final 100th Le Mans and 6 in a row. And I was like, and after the bad luck they had at Le Mans all those years ago, but when they started, exactly that, when they almost won it. And since then, they've been pretty metronomic in winning it. And when the Japanese are onto a good thing, they're onto a good thing. And I thought this was going to be a snooze fest. Far from.
Yeah. Well, speaking of snooze fest, I mean, let's not forget, Toyota didn't have manufacturer competition since 2017.
That's kind of why it was a bit of a snooze fest at the highest level. Because, whether you like it or not, you watch Le Mans, but the winner of the race is the winner of the race. I know there are different classes. And, yes, you can get excited about your mate in, GT2 or whatever. And, of course, we had lots of American interest this year as well. Menezes going good again. We had that NASCAR entry, which was interesting.
Yeah, very cool.
And I did see some videos. I watched those Marshall Pruitt videos you were talking about.
Yep.
And so there was a lot for American fans to get excited about. Glickenhaus as well. Lots of good stories. But you really tune in to see who wins Le Mans. And up until this year, it was kind of like, fait accompli, to use some French, fait accompli, nice. My Duolingo going well, that it would be another Toyota win. But it wasn't.
Yeah, and did you see the Toyota team afterwards? I mean, they were, to me, what was going through their head was, it's like, this would be the perfect time to redeem themselves, right? There's been no competition. They've been racing against, privateers. Private teams racing against the largest manufacturer on the planet?
Yeah.
Impossible, right? And, Ferrari just comes in and just steals the show.
Well, and the fact that, first of all, look at Ferrari's history in the event. You only have to look at the film Ford versus Ferrari to see what it means to them and what it meant to Enzo Ferrari and how they haven't dipped a toe into the highest level of Le Mans for the simple reason that they didn't have a car. And this is a car that they developed in a year.
Yeah.
So, again, you're talking, I mean, you really could do another movie on, Toyota versus Ferrari. But, in terms of the achievement in a year, yes, of course, Ferrari are very competitive. And I said to you just before we came in, this is not going to do Ferrari and fans of Ferrari and Italian motorsport fans any harm when it comes to Formula One, because they've had their noses rubbed in it. And we, like everybody else, have been rubbing their noses in it for not achieving what is expected of Ferrari, which is to win. And to win the greatest race of all, the hardest race of all, and to do it in a year and to beat Toyota at the top of their game, this will go down in history, not just as the 100th, but as being an amazing achievement by Ferrari.
And, Charles Leclerc was there apparently for the whole entire race. And I was thinking,
wasn't he telling him when to pit?
Yeah.
What tires to wear?
Well, the thing that crossed my mind is it, like you're saying, is it good for the F1 team or does it have some negative too? You could kind of spin it both ways. It's like, hey guys, we won here at Le Mans. We've got everything right, and we won. I say everything right. There was the last pit stop thing where they had to reboot the car again, but they got going. But the point is that could there be a negative to the F1 team? With them winning.
Yeah, exactly. It depends how you look at it. Yes, there's going to be a few. There's going to be a few pats on the back come Monday at Maranello, but there's also going to be okay, guys, the gauntlet is down. Our sports car team are kings of the world, and for the next year and a half, if not 2 years, you're going to hear about Ferrari's achievements at Le Mans, and that is going to wipe away any hopes you've got of achieving what we really want, which is to win in Formula One. And that actually is the goal. They love winning Le Mans, and they will milk it. They'll market it. They'll put all their sponsors out there. And this car, which is so beautiful, I hope will continue to go on like the 488 did and dominate its class for many years to come. And we've seen that.
Yeah, now, can they do it out there?
Yeah. And can we still, can they continue it?
I'm just thinking about this. The way it could affect the team is that I think it could just bring some confidence to the brand, which could leak over. I think that's kind of what you were thinking,
I really do think. I know it seems a little churlish to kind of say, it's all gonna help the Formula One team. But listen, psychology in any business, if you've got one side of the factory winning, it's gonna bolster the other side of the factory. People are talking about Ferrari in a positive light, and that doesn't happen as much as it should in Formula One.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking if I had to choose it, I would think it'd probably have a little bit of a positive effect because it's such a big deal, such a big deal coming back and winning like this. So, well, look, there's plenty going on. We talked about Toyota. I do have to mention, did you hear Anthony Davidson? They were talking about something about was the last lap, and there's and for all a Ferrari has to do is come across the finish line. Anthony Davidson said, excuse me.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen.
Yeah, no kidding.
They had a minute-and-a-half lead or whatever. And
yeah.
God, how many feet was it? 200 or 300 feet from the finish line?
And what was it? At 1.16 seconds in the last hour. So, you never say never. I do think if I'm reading between the lines, I think the reason Toyota had the failures that they had and the crashes they had were that they weren't as fast as the Ferrari, and they admitted it, but they therefore pushed the Toyota further than it's ever been pushed at Le Mans. And that just led to not overdriving, but, it's inevitable. When you're trying to catch a faster car at Le Mans over a period of hours, mistakes are going to happen. And so I think they got beaten, unfortunately, by a faster car. And that's something they've not had to rival with in the last 6 years.
Yeah, not since 2017 when Porsche left. This was the 10th victory for Ferrari, and only Porsche and Audi have won more at Le Mans in the top class like that. So, yeah, it was very fun to see, and heartbreaking for Toyota, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, guys.
So
Cadillac.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. That's okay. Carry on.
Cadillac 3rd and 4th, man. That's
great result.
Yeah.
And again, with the association with Cadillac, with Andretti. I know it's going to be a badged car if they do it, or a badged drivetrain. But who's to say that Cadillac's development of this powertrain that they're doing here can't lead them, in their R&D department, if Andretti gets what he wants, to start working on a Formula One engine. They've already said that it won't be, a GM engine straight from the start anyway.
Yeah. Which we all knew.
But again, Cadillac racing at the highest level. I mean, I'm not being funny, but 20 years ago, could you have seen Cadillac in IMSA or even Cadillac at Le Mans? No.
Yeah, I think, for sure 25. I'm trying to think when the CTSV program came in. But yes, I know exactly what you mean. And look, they're competing with Ferrari. I mean, Cadillac was, I know, at least as high as second, and maybe overnight they may have been leading the race. They probably did at some point because they were very competitive the whole weekend. And with 2 cars at 3rd and 4th, that's, I know, I was reading the headlines and they were all, Westbrook, the team boss, was like, we're disappointed finishing 3rd. But, that 24-hour race, that's right. It's a 24-hour race. Anything can happen because there was a bunch of attrition in some of the other classes. So. Probably the next big story for me was Corvette racing.
I know.
That was cool. That is probably the last time I took a selfie was when Corvette Racing brought the C8 back, and they brought it here to Austin, brought it to Coda. You and I did the commentary.
Yep.
But I walked through the garages the night before, and I saw that Corvette sitting in the garage and had to stop and take a selfie with the C8 because it was brand new then. But that was really exciting to see them win with our buddy Ben Keating from Houston.
Yeah, and also, what a history Corvette have had in that event. You forget, and I didn't realize until I read the report after the race how many hurdles they had to climb over to get to the race.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, they crashed the car. Yep. They took the back end of the car off, and they had nowhere to go. And literally, were it not for a miraculous qualifying on Thursday night, they would have been out, potentially, of the race itself.
Yeah. And a good comment from Jules David on YouTube. He says, "What's up with the end of the factory-back Corvette racing team?" Corvette has been. I was at a barbecue the other day, and somebody were talking about Le Mans, and somebody said, "I said, oh, they were talking about the Garage 56, and they said, well, is this first time Chevrolet's ever raced at Le Mans?" I was like, No. Corvette has a deep history.
Yeah, I know, because Corvette is such a distinct brand on its own, people forget that it's part of that. So, you don't, I know Americans always do, and you as a gearhead would always say Chevrolet Corvette, but I think the outside world looks at Corvette as a manufacturer almost.
Funny you should say that, because I have a theory for you, Jules David, is that this is kind of a joke.
Is he a hybrid?
But the Corvette is about to put out an SUV, and it's going to be a Corvette SUV. It's it's almost like they're.
What you talking about with this?
Exactly.
A Corvette SUV.
Yeah, and the
open
renderings,
top,
the renderings
for the
that
kiddies
I've seen,
to go like this, like they're on a roller coaster.
The renderings just look like a Corvette, just a little bit higher off the ground.
Who did it, Dolly?
Yeah. So the answer is that's where the money's going. They're no longer going to back a factory racing team. They're starting an SUV program.
So is that the end, though, of Corvette's racing program, full stop?
Apparently for now, and I don't know the long term, and I really haven't dug into this. Haven't had
because
time
to... the way I read it, the C8 is done too, right?
The C8 is what?
Well, done from racing. Or they're not going to develop it any further.
No, it's certainly not done from racing. But
okay.
I don't know what the development progress is going to look like. But it's not done from racing for sure.
Okay.
Look, there's a huge history for Corvette coming up. We're going to have a hybrid 1,000 horsepower version of the Corvette. It's going to be amazing. So it's going to be fun to watch Corvette as a brand. But
yeah, we're going to celebrate at Monterey. They're going to celebrate Corvette's 70 years.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's very cool. So looking forward to that, and I will get the answers to all my questions.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more Le Mans. We'll talk Garage 56 quite a bit, because that was a very cool story. Listen to Sunday Night with Speed City, back after this. Yeah, I can't remember what is going to happen with the C8 race program, but it's not going anywhere, I don't think, unless I missed something.
In IMSA, so it continues in IMSA.
Yeah, I figured. But that factory back is going away. That's crazy.
Factory backed is going away.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Got a couple of new folks on YouTube. What do you guys want to talk about? Is there anything we missed on Le Mans so far? Because we were going to talk Garage 56. Let's see. I wrote this down as kind of a joke. We had two class-winning American cars, the Corvette and the Camaro.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the history of Garage 56.
Well, you got...
Hey, this is Kurt Busch. You're listening to Speed City Radio.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Kurt Busch bringing us back.
Hey.
I forgot about that. That was when Kurt was here in Austin driving a NASCAR on Coda many years before it ever came to Coda. I think that was like 2013.
That was when the Aussie guys were here, yeah?
Yep. That was the Aussie V8 weekend. I think it was 2013. So 10 years ago, that was from... I was just going to look at some of the other, before we get to Garage 56, some of the other finishing, Glickenhaus, who's been with this hypercar series competing against Toyota all these few years. They did good. They finished 6th and 7th. And Porsche Penske, they had Kevin Estre, Andre Lauder, and gang. But yeah, and LMP2, did you see? I have to talk about Costa, who was driving the winning LMP2 car, because they showed him after the race, and he was just completely giddy because they had won the race. But that's only half the story, because he was so giddy. But you could tell, you know how these guys, they go without sleep.
Yeah.
Right. So their emotions are just completely out of whack.
And I've done it.
So he goes from being completely giddy on camera, and as the camera fades away, he starts crying.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that just shows the level of what this race means to these guys.
It messes with your head.
Yeah.
It really does. Lack of sleep, lack of the emotion, the highs and lows of the emotion. And like I said, I've been through it, because my good buddy Steve Martin won the 24 Hours of Le Mans on a motorcycle, which is even think about that.
Yeah,
which is crazy. And I was there with him the whole
They duct tape you on, so when you fall asleep, you just keep going.
Oh, it's nuts. I said to him, what's one of the problems out there? Because they're all doing burnouts. He said the smell of rubber is really hard on you, because it stinks and it's hard to breathe, because they're doing burnouts till 2 a.m. and burning old tires on their bonfires.
That's crazy. Let's talk Garage 56.
Let's do it.
So the NASCAR effort, I mean, they've been working on this for a long time, right? Yeah.
Before we go into what a great achievement, why did they decide to do this?
I don't know if I ever heard someone say this one reason, but I think it kind of feels like the new NASCAR is what it feels like to me. It's like, well, it's like all of these motorsports now are being a little more open about it, right?
I agree.
Like Formula One was retweeting that Leclerc was there.
Yeah.
And it used to be you would never see mention of another series by Formula One, especially, but by any of them.
And those hoity-toity Europeans would have snubbed their noses up at the idea of their world champion.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Getting in a NASCAR, but that's exactly what Jenson Button did. Yep. And, he's now done, 2 NASCAR races?
Yep.
He's living in L.A. I want him to come to Trans Am. Jenson, if you're listening, come to Trans Am. And by the way, if you want to, now that there's these new shows in town, some guy called Ricardo thinks he's funny. Come and join us, Jenson. We'd have you.
Yeah, come and join the show, buddy. But yeah, it was a great effort, and thinking about other reasons they might do it, I don't know, but think about the possibilities. They're already doing a bunch more road courses, right?
Yep. So
now they've got a bunch of research and development done for the cars. Maybe the setups might start changing because the lap times they run here at COTA are not they're not that impressive, to be honest. So maybe they might get better at it on the road courses with the research and development they've done.
Well, one of the things I read, which you'll go into the details, but roughly 4 Coca-Cola 600s is what they achieved at Le Mans, which that gives you a way of quantifying it that NASCAR fans can understand, and any American fan can understand. The Coca-Cola 600 is the big one, same day as Monaco, and the same day as the 500. But to do roughly 4 in a row just shows you how mighty that V8 Chevrolet engine is.
Yeah. Well, I did read about, or maybe it was one of Marshall Pruitt's YouTube videos for Racer.com about the engine. What they did, they lowered the revs.
Yep.
And they, it's still a 2-valve push rod, 350 8 cubic inch motor, basic, cup car engine.
What do you reckon the horsepower putting out was?
For this weekend, they start at 900, but they also lowered the RPMs from 9,000 down.
You're trying to make it last 24 hours.
So, it was probably 6-something was what I think they said. They never said, I know what it was. They said it was between 500 and 1,000. So that was the only clue they gave. So,
but did you get it? Did you clock it at a top speed anywhere, or?
I didn't. I never saw it, but I did see it. In fact, Kevin Kelly, who's watching on YouTube, tweeted at us a hilarious video. Somebody took the Camaro passing a Ferrari and played the Leonard Skinner song. I forgot which one it was, and they said, make this the national anthem, because it was pretty cool to see a Camaro passing a Ferrari at Le Mans. That was pretty cool.
Muscle cars arrive at Le Mans.
But it's you
there
think
goes the neighborhood
of an LSV8 and what an amazing engine that is. It's been, swapped into everything, souped up to 3,000 horsepower. But that's kind of what it is. It's an iron block, aluminum head, Chevy V8, push rod. So, in fact, I wrote down it. Half a cup season is what this was.
Yeah, there you go.
Half a cup season in 24
half a cup
hours.
season, yeah.
And the guy that was being interviewed, he said they used all the knowledge that GM got from DPI, Corvette Racing, Cadillac LMDH from, from years past. I mean, DPI. So, and he said the long block wasn't changed much. They said the Cup car uses a restrictor, which they removed, but they lowered the RPMs. So, and they did that to reduce the load on the valve train to get the reliability.
And in one of those Pruitt videos, they open the hood and show you it, and you can see how low the engine itself is.
Back.
Yeah.
Way back, like, almost on top of, beside the driver's knees almost.
Mm-hmm.
But, somebody said it sounded like a thundering alarm clock every 4 minutes as the Camaro came around the track.
Well, that's one of the delights of actually being at Le Mans, is that you get to a point where, I wouldn't say you're bored, but you've kind of been there, done that, taken the photograph, got the autograph,
after about
sampled the wine,
after 15 hours.
After about 15 hours. So the game is, that's that's the Peugeot. Yep. Okay. No.
Yeah.
That's the leading Porsche. And so you get to know the signal sounds of where they're changing gear and so on and so forth. So I would have thought that would have been there goes the Chevrolet.
Well, that there's nothing out there that sounded like it. So that was probably, one of the greatest things for people to, and it's like going back to why you ask. It's great for NASCAR, right? To get out there and maybe change a few misconceptions or stereotypes or whatever. So, it's like, and this was just a first effort at this, and who knows what could come of it.
Yeah, I really do think, and now I've lived here as long as I have, I really do think that the rest of the world has a skewed view of American racing because of NASCAR's popularity and because it's a stock car. And then only when you understand the history of why and the ovals and so on, do you kind of, a light goes off and you go, oh, okay. Because it seems so basic and unsophisticated at first look from the rest of the world that you kind of poo-poo it if you're from Europe or you're part of a South American racing legacy or Australia or whatever. Even the V8s in Australia, the supercars, has a sort of sophistication about it that NASCAR has never been able to get over that. And I think this is just another reason. You bring Jimmy Johnson, you bring Jenson Button, you put them together, you get Mike Rockenfeller, one of the greatest sports car drivers America's ever produced. And, the backup driver is Jordan Taylor, for God's sake. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Kevin Kelly said Freebird. That's what it was.
Of course it was Freebird.
Of course it was Freebird. Sorry. How could I have not remembered that one? Don't quit your day job, Johnny.
Okay, well.
But that was very cool, and I'm glad they did that. And I do want to talk real quick about the history of the Garage 56. It's this, what do they call it? Experimental, right? And you remember the first time they did this? The Delta Wing, the Nissan. You remember the one that was shaped like a triangle?
Oh, I remember it well. Catherine Legg drove it.
Yeah, it looked like 3 wheels, but it actually had 2 center wheels. They did 2 versions of that, and the second one I think was a hybrid. The first one was.
Who was that? We had a Delta driver on the show. Once.
Yeah, we did. We had them back in the day, but that was kind of the beginning. And they've had, what was it? They had a hydrogen powered one year, which I love this idea. Right? You know, why not? Let's get experimental with at least one car, and what better way to do it this year than with the NASCAR? So. What else from Le Mans? I had a couple. Somebody got their foot run over by the Corvette. Who was it? Was it Fabio? I think that's who that was. But did you hear somebody? Oh, one of the commentators when the NASCAR went around, he goes, "Le boogity, boogity."
Yeah, I hate to say it, but that would have been exactly what I would have done too.
Yeah, that does sound like you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I would have got exactly that reaction from Casey, as I always do.
And the Camaro was pretty high up in the
Le boogity,
Le boogity. Yeah. Yes, sir. Who else was it? Oh, there was a good.
And by the way, Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Frenchman.
Yes, that's true.
Louis Chevrolet, come on.
That's true.
And talk about bringing it right up to date. Simon Pagenaud, the first man since Louis Chevrolet to win the Indy 500.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
That's right. That's why we dug that stat up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that was. It was, by the way, it was a 9th win for Chevrolet, for Corvette. 9th class win.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I love it that Ben Keating was at the wheel of that, too. I did email him, but
he's no spring chicken either. I'm just really pleased for him.
I know. He's got to be in his early 50s.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Didn't he say, I'll retire when I get slower?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, he was already talking about next year. He was already.
Good for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him. All right, well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we have a young driver who's going to join us. And his name is Aidan Kenny. I want to keep wanting to call him Kelly. Aidan Kenny is going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. Listen to Sunday Night with Speed City. Back after this. Yeah, Kevin Kelly reminded the Delta Wing was at the Lone Star Le Mans. That's true.
Yeah.
All right, we got Aidan Kenny on the Zoom. Let's see. All right.
All righty.
Jesse Mesa has a message for you, Jonathan.
Jesse
Mesa on YouTube. He says, I've been hearing Jonathan's voice a lot lately with the clip of him commentating on the double-decker bus racing. I don't. Did you ever do that?
What is he talking about? What's he talking about, Willis?
Says was on the front page of Reddit and a few other socials. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming you haven't done the double-decker bus racing.
I have not, but I'll claim
wait a minute.
It.
Was this after a few beers?
Can I claim it?
It's your reputation, buddy.
Oh no! Oh mayhem!
Now that
guilty as charged.
That clip has been the last time I looked
10 million.
Was it 10 million?
Yeah.
At the pileup at what's it called? Help me out. Macau. Thank you. 10 million times, Greeny. What is Kevin talking about? The Nielsen team, sponsored by a big watch company, they had 24 watches on board. The car crashed and watches went everywhere.
Who's this?
I didn't. Kevin Kelly's talking about that on YouTube. I did not see that. That's cool, or not cool, but interesting.
So they lost a lot of time then.
Jesse says. Apologies.
That's quite funny.
That is funny, but yeah, they didn't think it was funny, but
no, they didn't.
Unless they got a lot of coverage in it, then they said, yeah, why not? Jesse apologizes. He said it sounded like you. That's all right, Jesse.
Sorry, Jesse. We all sound the same. That's the problem. Actually, the amount of people that say, "Oh, yeah, I heard you on DTM."
I've heard people say that about you.
That wasn't me. Ben Edwards. I often get done for Ben Edwards.
Yeah.
Lee Diffie, obviously, because we both do the.
All right, here we go. We got Aidan. He's good to go.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to your Sunday Night with Speed City. Our next segment is going to be with a guest. We have a young driver. He is Aidan Kenny, and he's currently racing in the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America in the 992 GT3 Cup Pro-Am as a Porsche junior driver. He sits second in the championship currently.
Cool.
Aidan, welcome to Speed City, buddy.
Hey guys, thank you for having me.
Well, how are you today? What's going on in the Porsche Cup and the full title is the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America 992 GT3 car. That's a pretty serious race car.
Yeah, it's definitely a big step up from last year in the Cayman, the GT4, but definitely a very fun car to drive. And I don't know if I ever want to drive the GT4 again.
Interesting. Now, I'm always interested, Aidan, because I've been watching this transition to Porsche racing, not actually here in the States as much, but tell me how you started your career and how you ended up in a Porsche.
So I originally started karting at the age of 13, so a little older than most of my competitors.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I moved up to cars. I started racing in WRL and a Porsche GT4 in the GTO class with W2W Racing. After that, I did a few races with them, won the inaugural 24 Hours of Sebring. And the next season, we moved up to Porsche Sprint Challenge in the GT4 class. I found great success there. Won, I believe, over half the races, and ended up winning the championship. So this year we moved up to the 992 class with ACI Motorsports, and so far things are going great. Sitting second in the championship.
And how old are you now?
I'm 18.
You know, the reason I asked that question is that the reason I have observed this is because I do a lot of single-seater racing in New Zealand. And amazingly, people like Callum Hedge, who is currently leading the American FR Championship single-seaters again, has been whisked off to Australia with Earl Bamber's team to do Porsche Carrera Cup Australia. And he's not the first, and there are many others. And I'm seeing this transition. Chloe Chambers also races in your series in the Cayman side as well, and she's a single-seater girl that's gone, you know, into Porsches. So what I'm getting at is I'm seeing a lot of people, like you said, not necessarily making the jump from karts to Porsche, which is a huge jump, but being able to use the rudiments of karting and put them into a very, very expensive sports car and come up winning, or at least come up successfully, as you're doing at 18. Did it surprise you, that transition, or not?
I mean, it was a very big transition to begin with, going from karts to cars in the first place. Like, there's a lot of different things to learn. The racecraft is definitely pretty similar, but at the same time, driving a kart versus a 500 horsepower car it's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, the transition has been great. I mean, I found some pretty decent success in the Porsche. They have a great ladder system built up, so that I can continue to race with them as a junior driver right now. So, I mean, they have a great ladder to keep me going in my career.
Hey, I want to ask you, obviously it all, you know, there's so much about money and sponsors and all the other things that you have to do to succeed in motorsports. Who are your sponsors, and give them a shout out?
Yeah, right now I'd like to give a shout out to Felix Group along with Odad Consulting, and then Go Motorsport Management. They really helped me out a lot with everything going on, along with BRM Chronographs.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good company to be involved in.
I wonder if that's the same watch company that had the watches spilled all over the
Did you watch them all?
No, I didn't. I saw highlights here and there. I didn't actually watch it completely. I mean, it's a long race to watch, but I had some other things going on.
So how do you manage, being the age you've been growing up in motorsport? How do you manage school and life and everything else?
Yeah, so I just graduated high school 2 weeks ago. My school was actually pretty supportive of me. Whenever I had to miss school for whatever reason, I mean, they just made sure I got all my work done, kept my grades up, and they supported me throughout the whole journey.
Didn't struggle to get a prom date going, I'm a Porsche driver.
Yeah. Yeah, so
he giggled a little too hard.
Yeah, too hard there, yeah. Carry on. Ignore me. I'm just trying to be funny and it's not working.
Right now, I'm not planning on going to college yet. I want to continue my motorsport career and see what I can get going there.
Well, what's the goal? Where do you want to end up?
I'd like to be factory driver for Porsche. I mean, that's the dream for everyone. But ultimately, just be driving a sports car in IMSA or over in WEC. Just anything, a supportive role as a driver for sure.
Well, you're certainly in the right place, and there's no question, as you said, being a part of the Porsche family is, especially at your age, is huge. I once knew a Carrera Cup Asia champion who was 18, who just won the GT championship in his name I forget for now, but it did him so much good to leave the UK and then go over to Asia and apply his work over there, and he won the Carrera Cup Asia. And the same story goes with Bamber as well, as we all know. A fantastic story about his rise, to the top of, and he was at Le Mans today. Just to explain to our audience, because we all see Porsches on the roads every day, and you mentioned Cayman, and you mentioned the 992. Just give me an idea, and also where the Sprint Challenge fits into. I mentioned Carrera Cup, but so. Okay, you've jumped from karts straight into this challenge series. What is the natural next step for you if you want to go down this route?
Yeah, so next up for me would be Carrera Cup North America next year.
Yeah.
It's still in a 992, but yeah, Carrera Cup would be the next step for me.
Yeah, we covered that at Miami.
Yeah. So when do they step up to the what is it, the RSR, which is the mid-engine 911, which you don't even think of that, but it's actually it's a race car, so it's not really it has very little to do with the road-going 911s, unlike what Aidan's driving. But do you know when do you step up to those, Aidan?
I believe the RSR is mainly used in Europe. I don't really know of any series that are using it in the US right now. They use the GT3R.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I believe it's most of the WEC championships.
That's a fascinating car. When I first heard about that, my son was doing some mechanicking on the 992 GT3 car. I got to see one of those up close and personal as they pulled it off the trailer and pulled the plastic off of that sucker a couple of years ago, right when they first hit. But that was a cool car. So, all right. Well, so what about the rest of this year? What's your schedule like? And you said you're second in the championship right now.
Yeah, I'm second right now. Still within 10 points of first place, I believe. So not far off at
That's
all.
close.
Right now, I have some testing lined up next week. I leave on Tuesday. We're not even halfway through the season yet, so there's still 4 rounds to go, 8 races. So there's a lot of ground to be made up. I mean, just keep chasing the overall lead and see where that gets me. I mean, just keep putting in the work.
You mentioned the fact that you graduated a couple of weeks ago. That's going to be a weight off your mind that you really can now. You're not trying to do two things at the same time. You could now be considered a semi-professional racing driver, and that's what you're trying to do. And yeah, college or not college, that's up to you, and it can come, at 22
Later.
or
Yeah,
30. It doesn't
exactly.
matter, and it might even work to do together in combine.
What are you thinking? Go to college if you do like engineering or something?
Definitely something with motorsports or physical fitness. I really like. I mean, I'm really into the gym and fitness and stuff like that. So something along that lines. But even like a driver, physical fitness person, that would definitely be something I'm interested in as well.
Hey, you said you're going testing. What do you test? Are you able to test in the 992 in the GT3 Cup car?
Yeah, so I'm going to Mid Ohio on Tuesday. We have our race in 2 weeks with IndyCar actually. So we're able to test the 992. Be doing that. I have a 2-day test next week.
How much sim work do you do?
I'm on the sim almost every day, really. Whether it's just trying to get a new track. I haven't been to Mid Ohio before, so I mean, I definitely have to learn that track and get to terms with it, or even perfecting my racecraft on the sim. That definitely helps a lot. There's a lot of people on the sim who are a little inexperienced, so it kind of helps with predictability.
Yeah.
And just trying out some different things with the people I'm not used to racing.
So what does a sim mean to you? I mean, a sim can be a PC with a decent graphics card and and a Fanatec wheel. What does it mean to you? What is it something you have at home?
What's your rig?
Yeah, what's your rig, man?
Yeah, so my rig is definitely not a Fanatec wheel with just some pedals and a cardboard box or whatever. I do have a pretty good sim with a 49-inch monitor, so everything's pretty sturdy for me. I don't have to worry about pressing the brake too hard and falling out of my seat.
Well, if you've still got the Fanatec wheel on the piece of cardboard, I'll take it because I've got the computer, but just haven't got the sim
He gave that
yet.
to Connor Daly. I've seen him using it.
Ah, man.
Hey, Aidan. So, all right, Jonathan, I'll flex my chops here. What GPU do you have? 2080, 3080, RTX, GTX?
I believe it's a 2080. I actually just recently upgraded 3 months ago. I upgraded from my old sim. So all the graphics are nice, running well. Can't really ask for a better sim.
Do you use like what platform? Like there's iRacing and others. What do you use?
I use iRacing.
Yeah.
I find it's the easiest to use really for any car, any track, and then it's just very user friendly as well.
Yeah, I use the same. I use the same, and I can actually I've got two 49-inch monitors, and I look while I'm going down the Mulsanne, I look at my emails.
You mean you're like Max Verstappen and you listen for the phone ringing in the background?
I did actually want to segue to Formula One. I was wondering, Aidan, do you follow other motorsport and what? And do you follow Formula One?
I used to follow Formula One a pretty good bit. I was still trying to go up the single seater ladder. try and do some of that. But ultimately, sports cars was where I found my love. So I don't watch Formula One as much anymore.
He's on the sim.
I mean, yeah,
Exactly.
I'll keep up to date with it, but I won't usually watch every single race or anything like that. But looking at the sports car stuff is definitely something I like a lot more.
Well, Aidan, Kenny, we really appreciate you taking some time out, and we're going to be watching you, see how you do this season, and depending on how you do, we'll get you back. No, I'm just kidding. We'll bring you back on the show, and we'll watch your career, and best of luck to you, and we'll talk to you in the future.
Hey,
thank you for taking the time out of your broadcast, guys.
Yeah. Hey,
much.
And listen, Aidan, in seriousness, best of luck. We'll keep an eye on you. Why don't you throw out your social for people to follow you? But also, when you do win the Sprint Challenge or Sprint Cup, and you do get 2 times, I want you to come on. I want you to come on when you've won this year, if you win, and even if you don't, come on. But then when you finally do get to the Porsche Carrera Cup, North America, we will be commentating on your race at Miami next year, if that's the case, or soon. And you never know. I'm going to Mid-Ohio in 2 weeks, and unfortunately, we're just missing each other by a week. But we will be at a theater near you, as they say. So keep in touch with us, because I love following young guys' careers and seeing how they get to where they're going. But more importantly, getting a relationship going. And then, the whole point in investment, that people like Verstappen have fans because he invests time and they invest time in him.
We've had at your age, we've had Lance Stroll, we had Lando Norris about your age.
Yep.
Who else?
Oh God, many.
Well, yeah, many others. Yeah, But yeah, what's your social media so people can find you?
Yeah, my Instagram and Facebook is Aidan Kenny _racing. Those are the 2 main platforms I give updates and posts on for sure.
Okay.
All right, Aidan, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, man.
All right, we're going to run to break, and when we come back, we'll talk. We got some Formula One we want to talk about, and we're going to talk a little MotoGP as well. You're listening to your Sunday Night with Speed City. Back after this. All right.
I'm just looking at it.
He's a good kid.
Yeah, and
put up with our antics.
I know. I just look at it, his graduation photos. Great stuff. It looks like Orlando, Florida. Looks like he's had a good time. And you can't help but be inspired by guys, that are so self-assured. It's like
at that age, my gosh, yeah.
And look at how the world is changing too. I mean, most people would poo-poo the idea of not necessarily going to college immediately, but the guy's got his life in front of him. And I really do believe when you've got the discipline to be a racing driver, and that can be the driver, it can be the mechanic, it can be any part of a motor racing setup. The discipline needed to be part of a team like that is a life-changing attribute.
Yeah. It prepares you for the future in one form or another. You don't worry about these kids. If they've got the tenacity to do this, they're going to do well in life. Hey, thanks.
Hi, this is Gene HAAS, and this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Thanks to Frank Kotwitz. He says another great interview, guys. Appreciate it. Let's see. We're going to talk some Formula One. It did when we heard Gene HAAS coming back. I haven't heard anything on that story where the HAAS team got accused of basically selling to the Russians after the Ukraine war broke out.
Yeah, it was a weird story, and it kind of did get buried, didn't it?
It hasn't resurfaced. Let's put it that way. I
read a story just this weekend about Mazepin trying to get into the UK, trying to go to Silverstone. They haven't let him in, which I thought was interesting. But
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry, but
yeah,
when your oligarch's money got you where you were, I just have no sympathy. I'm sorry. I know he's a young kid.
That's part my sympathy is with the fact that he's not done. He's not his. He is his father's son, but it's not his doing.
Yeah, it's true. That is very true.
He's the son of an oligarch.
Yeah,
and and we got on well with him. We liked him.
I do want to, I want to follow up with that story, but
yeah, well, the HAAS story.
I just want to see what happens. With
that. By the way, anybody listening, if you've got an update on that, just explain it. It basically said that HAAS continue to do business, not necessarily with the Mazepins, but with
Well, it was through distributors that were selling into Russia.
HAAS Automation.
And think about what the HAAS teams HAAS equipment can do.
Yeah.
For an army, that's
of course,
sophisticated gear,
machining gear, of course, and precision gear.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, to me, it just sounded like, could you be that foolish? And especially for they talked about it was a very small amount of money,
and it was a complete denial by the team, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But let's see, Jonathan, you had an interesting.
I'm looking. Hang on a minute. I'm looking at Aidan Kenny's setup. Look at this.
His rig.
Yeah, man. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. That's a 49-inch curved monitor. It's probably 4K or better or whatever.
Dude, I'd never sleep.
Yeah, and if you're going to buy a monitor, they say for gaming, the refresh rate is one of the big things. I know this because my son's a gamer.
I've got a good refresh rate.
You're trying to figure out where
why
to go
would you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Why would I, Casey? You're absolutely right.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
You know what? I was just running down my notes. Impressive for Peugeot, right?
Yeah.
They spent a lot of money getting where they got and ended up, having some problems and not finishing great. But, it's good for their investment. That's a Stellantis, or however you say it, the group, the big conglomerate now. But I thought that was a good, impressive.
And Peugeot's history of Le Mans, huge.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
You're going to go to Formula One.
I am going to go to Formula One. And you had at least one story. Oh, you want to talk about the Ricardo and Arnett alternative programming on ESPN.
Yeah, just been announced that Will Arnett, the actor, and Daniel Ricciardo, the other actor,
the overactor,
the acting silly guy. But no, we saw. I gave him a high five. Did Daniel?
You did live on the air at Miami.
Miami, yeah. But yeah, no, good guy, and of course he's having a year off from Formula One. He's still connected to the Red Bull team. And in fact, he's sort of playing the role of ambassador. Anyway, they're doing their own show on ESPN. And I think it's going to be interesting because the style is one that we like, which is it's the Eli Manning and his brother doing play-by-play in a sort of irreverent and fun way.
And awkward quite a bit as well.
Can be. To be honest, tough class to follow in that it's such a good show. The
Manning Brothers.
The Manning Brothers show is so good. Interestingly enough, same production company, so that bodes well. There you go. There you go. ESPN, Disney, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, and
ABC.
It's a interesting concept. I don't know. I'm thinking. You know what this is? It's the Drive to Survive fans.
Yes.
I went and I went to a doctor's appointment, had to get a little test done.
Is there a joke here?
No, but the nurse was talking about she'd been to Barcelona, and she was just at Barcelona. I said, "Oh, were you there for the race?" And she goes, "No, the race was in Monaco when I was there. The timing was off." And I was like, so she clearly knew what I was talking about. I didn't say F1 race. I just said, "Were you there for the race?" And I said, "Oh, you're an F1 fan." She goes, "Yeah, ever since Drive to Survive." And then I asked the $64,000 question. I said, "Well, do you watch a lot of races?" And she goes, "No, I haven't really. I've kind of watched a little bit. Something about like a friend of hers is a big fan. I've seen parts of races." In other words, she watches Drive to Survive,
not much else,
but doesn't watch the races.
I'm fine with that.
I know. It was just an anecdotal little piece of evidence.
And going back to that,
I think those are the people that'll watch this show.
And I wish them well because to have two mainstream people, one from Formula One and one from the world of acting and broadcasting, great. And let's see what happens. They're going to do 3 to start with. They're going to do Canada, so that'll be interesting. But you don't want to choose. Listen to it after our show.
That's right. Well, exactly. But yeah, I think it's just another way that they're trying to take advantage of the popularity and the growth of the sport. So why not?
Yep. The other story I put in was Verstappen.
What I was alluding to when we were talking to Aidan?
Yes.
That was pretty cool. Tell him what you...
Well, this kind of goes back to the start of the season when I started listening, when F1 Pro started giving us every onboard. I started watching purely Alonso because I knew that I would get insight regardless of where he was, like no other, and I was right. Because he chats away with his engineer, and it's amazing the composure he has at speed. And Verstappen, in this article on GrandPrix.com, described it as a special extra capacity. And what he's saying is, even in the heat of battle, he is able to go, hey, I just noticed this, or have so-and-so taken their pit stop yet, or whatever it might be. And the example that Verstappen used was he heard a phone ringing when he was on the radio, and he goes, is that Helmut Marko's phone?
His ringtone.
His ringtone, yeah.
He apparently knew.
Yeah, he knew it.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing. And
but he finished off by saying that only he and Alonso had this ability. Hamilton did not, which I would have thought will upset Hamilton, but that's the game.
Speaking of team radio, I was talking to my son. He's on the Inception race team for McLaren in IMSA. And I was talking to him about team radio. In fact, I was telling him this same story. And I said, how much of y'all's team radio is real or not real? And he kind of just smiled really big. And I was like, okay, so he would never commit. But I got the feeling it was about half was bait for
what
the other
we
teams.
get.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, ever since it became stock, it's been an espionage tool for each and every racing driver to give out false information. And I think that's why we hear Hamilton complaining about tires so often, is that that's almost code.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm never going to make it here. Oh, I can't hold a Scottish. She's blowing up. I've got no dilithium crystals. We're all going to die. No, that's not quite.
That's a perfect Lewis Hamilton.
Thank you. With
yes.
Jackie Stewart and Scotty thrown in there.
Yeah. Hey, the other big F1 story of the last 7 days or so was the Alfa Romeo talking about James Key taking over as technical director.
Yeah.
Because, Sauber, Audi, they're looking to the future, aren't they?
And that is a big move. And there was another story I put in about McLaren being one of their staff, one of Red Bull staff going to McLaren, Marshall, I think his name is. And they were saying, does that mean that Red Bull are going to provide engines, Ford engines, to McLaren? But I'll keep saying this. I want to know what McLaren, if they have a plan, because right now they're getting lost in a game of musical chairs without a really good partner, except for Mercedes as a customer. And that's fine. But
what's going to happen? You've got Ford coming back in, and you've got Andretti Cadillac coming in, and they've talked about they're partnering with Renault. I'm saying it as if it's a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we touched this last week, but just if you haven't heard the latest, the deadline has passed. Formula One has closed, and FIA have closed entries, and Andretti was certainly one of those. And there was a couple others, maybe a Chinese billionaire or two, and some other teams, the equal team, the 50-50 male-female team. But Andretti...
That's assuming that they're going to be a new team.
Yeah, it's true. Dude, there's going to be multiple new teams.
I'll do what my dog does.
Oh?
Ooh?
Yeah. Hey, we just got a couple minutes left, Jonathan. MotoGP, man. We snuck out of time there.
Bagging him Bagnaia.
Yeah.
He's bagging him.
Yeah, I wrote down a note about, it was stunning what he did today, really, because he, top of the times Friday, qualified on pole, won the sprint race, set the fastest lap, led every lap, and won the race. Not a bad weekend for Pecco Bagnaia.
And having been to that race in Mugello and the fandom that follows that, to see, in fact, it was bigger than that. Ducati got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the sprint race, and a 1, 2, 3, 4 in the main race today. And yes, you're right, Bagnaia won both of them.
And a
pretty
bad weekend,
darn impressive.
And a bad weekend for the Marquez brothers.
I know. You just want Mark to kind of, I don't know, I want to say settle down, but no, that's his, that's kind of his DNA, is he is who he is because he's able to do crazy stuff. Again, it doesn't always pay off. And again, it didn't pay off today. And I remember the commentator saying at the beginning of the race, is this the day that Marquez gets his first win of 23? And no, it's not.
Yeah, because both he and his brother crashed out. And, did you see Marquez after he crashed out? He's holding up his hands like, basically what he was saying, because he said it after the race, is this bike sucks. And it's, supposedly built for him, but it's not working.
Well, Alex Rins on the LCR also got injured.
Yep.
And therefore missed. That was in the sprint, or that was in practice, and unfortunately he's in hospital. But Yeah, there's a struggle at Honda. There's no question. I mean, it's ironic that there's a struggle at Honda and at Yamaha, and now Ducati are absolutely reaping it.
Yep. All right, well, we are out of time. Sorry, two-wheel fans. We could have got into that a little more, but I don't want to talk about what's coming up. We got this week, Wheel to Wheel, Chris Metal and I. Go to our website, speedcitybroadcast.com, to find out where to listen to that. I'm going to talk about the Saudi Arabian Live Golf thing and how that might relate to Formula One.
It does relate.
Because I've been thinking a lot about that, because that was a bombshell. And, of course, next weekend, Canadian Grand Prix for Formula One. We're going to do the Saturday post-qualifying and pre and post for the race. And we'll do all that on Sunday. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.
Happy trails.